and topic which is currently under discussion is the profit maximization. And last time we learned about the revenues and what was the revenue all about, that we have two market structure, monopoly and perfect competition, and both of their revenue curves differ from each other, and we have seen the trends as well. I hope that you must have tried the exercise. I have been receiving some feedback that the question which was set as a worksheet, that was not able to be done. So it's quite very simple to be attempt. When you're attempting that question, they simply ask you for some calculation. So in the calculation, we know that the profit is actually the sum of revenue minus cost. So it means if they are asking to find the cost in question 2 of the worksheet, that means that's very simple to find the calculation. To find this area, if you have these two information, that means that you can either subtract and find out the cost, right? So this is how you can calculate the cost. And then you have to find out which one, in the first question, that which is the maximum profit output. So in one column you have the output, and against that output you have to compare the revenue and cost. Whichever the result is higher, that is the output which is giving the maximum profit. So that is one of the questions which has been asked by some students while they were making an attempt on that. So anyways, I hope it's answered your question. If still you have any issues, you can write back in the Google Classroom and tell me what is again the problem that I would like to look upon and look forward to answer your queries directly as well. So anyways, coming back to today's lesson, that is the part of the profit maximization. And the profit maximization, we are going to find out that how we can maximize the profit. So since the profit is determined by cost and revenue, so that means these are the two reasons which through we can increase the profits. Okay, so what were those two values or economic variables, those things or factors which can decide mainly or basically? Yes, it is either the revenue and the other one is cost. Now you will be surprised at why I have made these arrows, and one showing the upward sign and one is showing it the downward sign. This is just for your understanding that if we want to maximize the profit, one thing which we need to remember that the revenues need to be increased and the cost should be minimized. We illustrate in our last lesson as well as the equation which I wrote in the morning, right in the beginning of the lesson, which states that the revenues minus cost give us profits. So revenue is on that side. When it is increased, it is going to increase the profits, and the cost, which is coming after the negative sign, if we minimize the cost, this is going to increase our profit. Now, we are going to find out what are the reasons through which we can minimize or decrease the cost while we are producing, and what are the ways through which we can increase the revenues. So let's start with the costs first. So how a firm can minimize or decrease its cost? Because it's going to decrease its cost, it's going to increase its profit, which is going to result into profit maximization. So the first reason which we can highlight in the cost to increase, that we need to be more efficient while we are producing. Now the question is efficient. Efficient means that you are actually trying to avoid wastage. While we are producing, there are chances of wastage, dear students. How the wastage could be happen? Let's suppose if you think that your workers are not giving that quality product and they are sometimes showing some negligence in their work, they are not working up to the standard and required level of the firm or the company. So that is going to create the wastage. For example, if you are deputed or delegated to work for, let's say, 6 hours, and in 6 hours you have to produce this much of amount of goods and services. Now imagine if the workers are taking some kind of breaks during the work. Maybe they are going for some tea breaks, some unnecessary intervals during their work. That means that they are not working efficiently. That is going to reduce their output. That is how there will be more wastage. So you can well imagine that when we are doing the work inefficiently, sometimes we are creating waste. The waste results into inefficiency. So to avoid the wastage, you need to become more efficient, bring more efficiency into your work, and then you can have decrease in the cost. So that's just because from the labor point of view. Let's talk about from the output. Let's suppose if in Sialkot there is a firm which is producing leather garments. Now from the leather garments there are certain things which are coming as a byproduct. Now that byproduct, if we efficiently use it in some other products like making the leather belts or maybe the leather purse or wallets, that can be used. But that means that you are actually avoiding the wastage. You're bringing the wastage into a utility. You're utilizing it. That can also benefit some customers. So it means that you are minimizing your wastage and you're becoming more efficient. So efficiency eventually decrease your cost and resulting into the profit maximization. Number two, how to reduce the cost is through productivity. Okay, productivity is something that you put lesser amount of factors of production like land, labor, capital. If you are employing very few, but they give you more output as compared to someone who is employing more workers and having the same output. So it means the lesser input but more output is more known as productivity. Now, how is it possible that one firm with very less factors of production is producing more? It may be they're more productive, but how they're more productive? Maybe they are more skilled. And how the skills actually comes? Yes, one of the example which I could quote over here is if they are more trained. The training can cause you to be more productive. The more you are trained, the more you are in a position to learn that how you can make goods more efficiently again and how you can create lesser wastage. But there is one question which rises over here, dear students. If we are productively and we are training our workers, at the same time, don't you think that this is going to again increase your cost? Yes, like if you're going for some training, you need to hire some training services. For example, like you will hire some institute to train your workers so they become more productive, but that is going to be a short-term expenditure. Once they are trained, in the longer run, they will be more productive. So training can is one of the example which can make your workers productive, but at a very small time, it is going to bear some cost. So maybe the cost will not fall for a time being, but in the long run, it is going to decrease your cost. That's why whenever you see any production or any region around you those who are like producing goods and services, those who are like more industrialized cities, you will always find some training units over there. Why? Because they will make your workers productive. So see, just see around your city, or maybe a city like Faisalabad. All these cities have some sort of training facilities which may actually give some vocational training to your workers so they could be more productive. So after efficiency and productivity, there is one more thing which is quite familiar to us. There is another reason through which we can minimize of our cost is increasing the size of the firm. Increasing the size of the firm. When we are talking about this topic, dear students, do you know what is this? Increasing the size of firm means that you are actually growing. When you are growing as a large firms, we all know what is the outcome of this. You guessed it right. It's economies of scale. So we have already learned about this in our previous lesson. The economies of scale are when we are producing more, our per unit cost or our average cost is actually falling. So these are the three reasons which actually tells us that how the profit can be maximized by decreasing the cost. Efficiency, bringing productivity, making more workers productive, making more, increasing the size of the firms together. Let's see the other side, that is the revenue. Now, the revenues are something that how we could increase it. So there are some reasons to increase the revenues this time. So at the very first, if we want to increase the revenue, let's have a quick recall. What were the revenues? The last lesson tells us that revenues is about how the price is multiplied with the quantity, and that gives us the total revenue. If that is not sufficient for us, at least we know that the amount which we earn or obtain or gain after selling goods and services. So after sales, whatever the amount we receive is known as the revenue. So more the revenues, the greater would be the profit, provided that if the cost is minimizing or it remains the same. So the revenues, how the revenues are going to increase, the very first reason that is I brought to you is market share. Now, when we talk about the market share, we are eventually talking about that more number of customers in the market. Obviously, when you have more customers who are buying your goods, you have to produce more output. The more output multiply with your prices, that is going to increase your revenues. Okay, so how would you increase the market share? Now, there are some other reasons through which you can do that. Either you can increase the market share by increasing the demand. Now, how would you increase the demand? There are certain reasons which we can highlight. Number one, if we just go and find some means to introduce successful advertisement. Successful advertisement. Can you guess like what is successful advertisement? Like somebody, when you are advertising to that extent that you actually put the words of your product in someone's mouth. For example, whenever you go to buy, and if you feel like you're thirsty, you go and ask for a cold drink or a beverage, but you never use that word. You usually say, would you like to have Pepsi or Coke? So what is this? Now, this is the result of the successful advertisement. So you keep on speaking those words, and due to this successful advertisement, the demand is increasing and the market share is increasing as well. And that's why if we see the statistics, we can assume that the Pepsi and Coke are holding a larger share of market or customers just because of this, and they are able to increase the demand. Okay, now if they want to increase, you want to see that how you can increase the demand, you can either go for some market research. That is another very interesting but very sophisticated way, which usually the large firms can do that. You can hire a group who can do the research on your behalf and find out what are the responses and what is the actual demand of the people these days. And through that market research, you can produce those goods, you can switch your resources to that diverse product, which can definitely help you out to increase the demand. If you feel like that if you're giving or producing only one commodity, and if you don't find that the research, market research, it can help you, then definitely this can find you that how and where the consumer is actually like your product and what are their expectations from you, and that research can enable you to increase the demand. Okay, so market research, afterward, if we just talk about, we need to say one point which is associated that this market research sometimes helps you to find out that how quick you are to the response of customers. This is again a very interesting point. If you are very quick to the customer's response, you gain a very good rapport, and the people always count on you, and they always try to gain and try to buy your products. They will keep on increasing the demands of your product, and that is going to be result into increase the revenue. Okay, now after this, there is one more thing that is only from the demand side. Like if you want to increase the demand, to increase the market share, you can either increase the demand, but there is another way through which you can increase the market share, or maybe you can increase the revenue, and that is price. Now, how you will remember this? We know that the revenue is actually earned by multiplying by price into quantity sold. Right? So we can say that the revenue is based on these two components. But these two components, the quantity is actually increased by these reasons which I have highlighted. But we are left with the price. So it means that the price can also contribute in increasing the revenue. So can you guess how it can be? Through price, it can be done with the help of the concept of price elasticity. Price elasticity of demand. And if you remember and recall, if the price increases, how can you assume that the revenues could increase? Can you guess that? You need to find out what is elasticity. Can you guess what elasticity should be there? And what we will do with the price? Should we increase or decrease? So you need to recall that lesson again. And you can refer back to the elasticity concept, which was previously discussed in the video lesson as well. And you can well imagine if you know that the product of your price elasticity is inelastic. Now, when we talk about the inelastic, we are actually talking about the price elasticity of demand is less than 1. When it is less than 1, it means if the price is increasing, the revenues must be increasing. I don't want to go into the details since I have already told you that from this point, I must encourage you, please refer back to the elasticity revenue lesson in which I in detail explain you how it happens. So, from the price point of view, if the elasticity is inelastic, if you come to know that why your product is inelastic, then you're always going to increase the prices to increase the revenue. But let's suppose if it is elastic. which means the price elasticity demand is greater than 1. What would you do this time? You're not going to increase the price, but you're going to decrease the price. I mean, you will decrease the price. This is going to increase the revenue for you. Okay, so summing up today's lesson with the profit maximization, we all learned about that the profit maximization is actually also known as a principle or rule or law of profit maximization. What is the law of principle of maximization? What is the principle of profit maximization? Then the answer should be started that if it is when the revenue and cost are compared to find out that what is the profit and how it can be maximized by increasing the revenue, by decreasing the cost, and how the cost is going to decrease, efficiency, productivity, right, this increase in the size of the firm. This is going to decrease your cost, and the revenues, they can increase by increasing the market share, by finding more output, and how you can increase the demand of your product by using the successful advertisement or doing the market research or showing a quick response towards the choice and the change of the demand of the consumer. And from the price point of view, the revenues can be increased through the elasticity concept. And if you come to know that why elasticity or your product is elastic or inelastic, you can either increase the price or decrease the price. And how we would find out that it's elasticity? Again, the answer lies in the previous video, which I cannot show it today. So you can refer back to that. That will be helpful. Thank you very much. So tomorrow, hopefully, we are going to share another topic, which is the extension of this, that what are the firm's objectives other than the profits? Because since we learned at the beginning that the profit is the basic objective of the firms, but the profit is not the only objective of the firm. There are some other objectives for the firms. We will find out what others objectives the government can set. So thank you very much for being with me. And if you have any question, you can ask me after taking a little break. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Love.